This video is about how to create an image, a color image, or whatever kind of image you want that will go onto a laser cut profile that you will have cut out that will exactly match this image. So, first of all, you need to find the image of whatever it is that you want. So here's my image. It doesn't really matter what the background looks like because you're going to cut that away anyway. So the best way of dealing with this to save this picture is to use your snipping tool. That way you can get whatever you want, and if it's proprietary, it will still work. And we're going to get that image, whatever that is, and you're going to save that image. It is really important that you do that and that you save it. And I recommend putting that into your Google Drive so that if a class period ends and the computer erases everything, you still have access to that photo. But it needs to be the same photo for both um, the document and in Fusion. So we're going to take that and we're going to open up a document in Google Docs. And while in Google Docs, you are going to paste or insert that picture that you made. We're going to upload it from wherever you saved it. There it is. Put it in there. Now, on paper, you want to get this right. Look at your rulers, kind of use your fingers or a ruler and kind of look at what that's going to look like and see if that matches what size you want it to be. So I think I will size Louise here to be about 2 3/4 inches tall. So get that the way you want it. That is kind of important because you're going to size your cutout to this, not the other way around. Okay, so now that you have that saved, we're going to need to make sure we have that. We're not going to change it when you go to print that out. Now we're going to go into Fusion. And from Fusion, you're going to insert a canvas. Canvas is a picture, not sure why they call it that, but that's what it's called. And we're going to insert from my computer and go find that same picture from the same location that you had saved earlier. Okay, it asks you what face. Usually we want to put it on the front face. So this is actually important when we go to cut that you have put it here. So now it's going to give you this picture and it's going to give you an idea of size. Now this is really important. We can zoom in, see this little set of lines here. You want to make sure that you grab this corner arch looking thing. If you grab these straight lines, it will morph it out and stretch the picture out. So we want to make sure we're not doing that. We're just grabbing that guy. And notice that it is giving us a relative size to where we were before. Now, I believe that's the outside of the picture. I'm not sure what direction it might be, corner to corner. So it doesn't really matter. You remember how it was 2.5 before? Make it slightly smaller. So I'm going to make it like, for me, I'll just make it a little over 2. It doesn't matter because we're going to size it later. Just get close. And once we've got that, we're going to click OK. Now we've got an image that we can trace. So now we're going to create a sketch on this front face, and we're going to use our tools, our spline tools, to start tracing around the image that we want. If you've got something flat, it's good to start with something flat like the bottom right here and this straight edge that goes up here. Okay. Now you can use lines are better if you can, the more lines you can use instead of arcs, but if you want to switch to your spline tool, that will work also. Splines just you got to make sure that you kind of click, and you want the fewer the better. You don't want to go crazy with this and get way down to the pixel level and start clicking here and clicking here and clicking here. The laser is not going to be that precise. So we want to just kind of generally do your general shape the best you can to get it to match what you've got. Here's something to think about as you go around this is if you've got a narrow area like the area of her ears here, between this point and this point is pretty skinny and it might break really easily. So in those kind of cases, you have to think about adding a little bit more material. So for example, right here, instead of coming all the way down and then across, I think I'm just going to go across to here and then keep going up so that I've created a little bit more material here that won't break. Imagine, for example, that you were going to do this spider and trace around it. Well, the legs would be so skinny that at worst, the laser's just going to burn right through it. And at best, it's going to be really, really weak. So in this case, you'd probably want to draw kind of around these, but then just come in a little bit and around the whole outside. So it got kind of the general profile of this, but without trying to make something super, super skinny. All right, so we're going to continue on until we have that full profile done. Now that you have your profile drawn, and you can check to make sure it's enclosed by turning off the canvas, and you should see that light blue profile to show you that it's all enclosed. Now that we have that, this is really important. You're going to look at a couple of points that you have on this picture. Like for me, I think I will go from this corner up to here. And on the paper that you printed out, so on your paper, you are going to measure from the same 2 points on your paper with a ruler. Make sure you are writing down what those measurements are. So let's assume that I measured from those 2 points we talked about, and with my ruler on the paper printed out, I measured 2 and 11/16. On the Fusion sketch that I made, I'm going to measure from the 2 places, which was from there to there, okay? And it's 1.54 in this case. So I had on paper 2 and 11/16, and on here 1.54. Don't worry that we're mixing decimals and fractions. We'll deal with that in just a moment. Side note, while I'm thinking about it, if you are making a charm or something to hang, don't forget that you need to have a hole or some way of having your attachment for a split ring or whatever you're going to do at this point. All right, now what you're going to do now is some math. We got to scale our drawing in Fusion, the sketch, to match what's on the paper, and this is the formula to do that. So for me, for example, I'm going to get my calculator out. It was 2 and 11/16 was the measurement on paper. So my measurement on paper was 2. I'm going to be kind of fancy here and say plus 11 divided by 16. It will do that operation. And then we're going to divide that by the measurement in Fusion, divided by, and I believe it was 1.54. I'll double check that before we go. And it's going to give me a value that this is my scale factor. Okay, I'm going to even copy that to 3 or 4 decimal places. So now I can go back to Fusion. I've got a sketch here. Okay, and what we're going to do, first of all, is expand the origin. We're going to highlight everything in that sketch by dragging a box, and we're going to come up to modify, okay, and we are going to go to sketch scale. That's going to put everything up. I've selected all my stuff. The point that I'm going to go from is this origin point. It's kind of difficult to do everything else. And my scale factor was whatever the calculation was. So for me, it was that. Notice my scale has gotten bigger and now it will match. This scale will match. I can turn off my canvas because what I did on my paper. Okay, so don't change the sizes of anything now because it won't work if you do that. All right, here's the final step. If and only if you never use the spline tool, you can uncheck finish sketch. Now I did use the spline tool, so we're saying maybe you just did a circle and something else and you never use spline. You can come into your sketches, right click and save it as a DXF. Now this won't work if you have a spline tool. And that's what you're going to send to your teacher as a file that can be laser cut. If you did use spline tools like we did here, then you have to be in the sketch, double click as if you are editing that sketch. And then we're going to click on that sketch to highlight it and come up here to create, export to DXF. Now it's going to give you a conversion tolerance. That's the size that the corners and things are going to be. I usually like to make a pretty tight tolerance. So even though it's 0.039, let's get rid of that 9 and make our tolerance 0.03. We're going to click OK. And you are going to then save that file in whatever format your teacher asked you to so that we can laser cut that part. All right, this has been a video about how to cut your part or get parts ready to cut for a laser cut color print to profile. Hope it works out for you.